Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. It's quite an honor to be here with you all. I was, late this summer, I had the wonderful privilege of spending a month at our hermitage, which is in a very isolated forest in northwestern California. Very rugged terrain and nobody around, one neighbor in 3 miles and nobody else for miles. And when I arrived, there was a small forest fire nearby. And overnight it grew from 380 acres to 3,300 acres and then continued to expand. And I learned that it was threatening a Forest Service road. And I knew that if they didn't hold that road, the fire would come bounding down a ridge right to our house, the house that I was in out there by myself. And this created a certain kind of anxiety. Surprised me a little, actually. And then rain was predicted. In the middle of the night, 100% chance of rain, a good soaking rain. And this seemed to be the solution to all my problems. But that night at midnight, I was woken up by hurricane force winds, completely ferocious winds whipping around this house perched on the end of this ridge, surrounded by forest. And the vision I had was of this fire crowning into the treetops and bounding down that ridge right at me. And this provided, I found that it provided a really wonderful training opportunity. Because what arose was terror. And I'm one of these people who's thought of myself as fearless and will just go out and do anything or whatever. And sometimes when I think back on that, I think I'm lucky I'm still alive. But this opportunity, I mean, this was sheer abject terror. I was just totally frightened by this thing and this situation. And my first impulse was to, there are two, let me say there were 2 lessons at least that I learned from this. My first impulse was to make that terror go away. And one of the things I'm struck by in our training is that impulse to get rid of what we don't like and to fix things. And I see this very clearly as my knee-jerk reaction, and that's what happened when I found myself in this position of terror. Immediately, this terror must go, and I'm going to get rid of it and I'm going to fix it. And the teaching of the Buddha and the teaching of my tradition is that we don't get rid of what's there. We stay with it. We sit with it. We be with it. We accept it as it is and not ask that it be different. And as I immediately recognized myself wanting it to be different, encouraging myself to make the shift towards willingness to accept what is as it is. I decided to use the opportunity to offer loving kindness to everybody and everything threatened by the fire, the forest, the animals, the whatever human beings, anybody that was going to be overrun, to my mind, quite suddenly by this fire tearing down this ridge and into the surrounding valleys. But the loving kindness wasn't meant to get rid of the terror. It was meant to focus my mind so that I could stay with the terror. So that was one lesson. And the second lesson was this coming straight home, the reality of impermanence, which we talk about all the time and which is so obvious to us all. And yet, the sense that this forest, well, it had already expanded suddenly overnight, this fire, and the thought of it doing it again, the rapid shift and change for so many beings, was very much in my face. And interestingly, I kept looking out the windows for fire. None ever came. The rain came, it poured. I went back to bed, and the next morning called the fire public's office, the public information office, and learned that there had been no wind where the fire was, and that the rain had essentially put the fire out, and the road that they were holding had held, and it would continue to hold. So after all that, that was the result, the happy ending, if I can put it that way. But this lesson of impermanence stays with me. And one of the ways that I apply that is in relationship to our own vocations as monastics. One of our monks recently remarked that monasticism is an endangered species. Monastics are an endangered species. And I bring this up as a way of expressing gratitude for this gathering and for all of us being in robes for however long we're in robes, and then coming together and sharing that with each other, and how incredibly valuable that is. I myself, I very much resonated with what you said, Venerable Children, the other night when you said, no matter what the challenges, the robes were your refuge, the ordination was your refuge. And I myself have this same response to the robes. No matter how bad it gets, the place I find myself again and again and again is that the robes aren't negotiable. I can't be without the robes. There's something that somehow being a monastic for me, and this obviously isn't true for everyone, is who I am, and I can't change that. And when I reflect on monasticism and its value, if I can use that term, I find that monasticism is like anything else. It's empty of self-existence. I can't find the monk in me any more than I can find the self in me. You know, it's not our shaved heads or our robes or our celibacy or our monastic practices, our renunciation. None of those make us monastics. And yet, somehow, there's this thing we call monasticism that has a reality and a validity. So it's a very slippery thing. And one can't grab hold of it and have it. And in that sense, it often strikes me as very fragile and impermanent, and something that can slip away from us, like that forest could have slipped away from us, or our retreat house there could have slipped away from us. And yet, there's a sheer love of it and a joy in it that I don't find anywhere else. And it's that love for it that carries me through no matter what the challenge. And I'm not sure that love is a good reason to do something. It can lead one astray. And yet, in this case, as a sustaining light, it's indispensable to me. And because it's so indispensable to me, I'm endlessly grateful to all of you for your practice and training wrapped in the robes. And grateful for this gathering because through it, we can feel less endangered and more feel like we have a greater critical mass. The support that we have for each other and the love that we have for each other and the love that we have for what we're doing is endlessly valuable. And I offer that it may sustain us when it's really hard. Thank you.